Welcome to the show. It's the Deep Dive Podcast, where the truth will flow. We're digging deep, uncovering the lies, breaking news and stories that'll open your eyes. From missing persons to the darkest crime, we'll take you on a journey. Real stories every time. Catch the pulse of the streets, feel the rhythm alive. Tune in with us as we strive to survive. This is the Deep Dive. Let the mystery unfold, dancing through the shadows with the stories told. In a world full of questions, we search for the clues.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get straight to what matters.
That's the plan.
And today, we're doing something a bit different. We're tackling two separate, really compelling sets of source materials, things that have been, on our listeners' minds.
Two very different stories, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Our mission, as always, is to pull out the key insights, look at all the angles, and just give you a clear picture of some complex situations.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got two main topics. First, this really tragic event that just happened yesterday in Utah, the shooting of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, a lot of information coming out on that one. Press conferences, news reports.
Witness accounts too, harrowing stuff. And then we'll shift gears completely. We'll look at a really perplexing missing persons case from Maine, Stefanie Damron. Been missing a long time.
Over 300 days now. For that, we've looked at YouTube discussions, news coverage, official sources. It's a real mix.
It is.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've all seen headlines that, capture a moment, but what truly goes on beneath the surface when a major event just shakes the news cycle? Today, we're really pulling back the curtain on a tragic and complex story that captivated the nation. The shooting of conservative media personality Charlie Kirk. For this deep dive, you supplied us with a pretty rich stack of sources. We've got initial breaking news reports from networks like MSNBC, Fox News Digital, raw eyewitness accounts too, and the official statements from those press conferences with Utah state and federal officials.
That's right. And our mission today is really to be your guides through all this material. We'll try to untangle that immediate chaos, the sometimes conflicting early reports, and the broader implications of what happened here. Ultimately, we aim to give you a clear, informed understanding of what actually transpired, maybe shining a light on the challenges of real-time reporting during a crisis and the profound impact these events have on all of us.
Okay, so let's set the scene for you. It was Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, around 12:01 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Charlie Kirk, he's the 31-year-old co-founder of Turning Point USA, that prominent conservative youth organization. He was speaking in an event on the Utah Valley University UVU campus in Orem, Utah. The setting itself was quite specific. It was outdoors in what witnesses called a bowl area near a waterfall on the central campus surrounded by buildings. Kirk was speaking under a white tent, and there were over 3,000 people there. Witnesses described it as, lively, almost a festive atmosphere.
Yeah, but here's where it gets, really chilling and tragically ironic. It's the subject Kirk was debating just moments before the shot was fired. Eyewitnesses reported he was actively discussing transgender shooters and the debate around not allowing them to purchase firearms right then.
Wow.
It just starkly exposes the vulnerability of public discourse, doesn't it? How these abstract debates can suddenly become flashpoints, targets even. It challenges our basic assumptions about safety in these open forums.
Absolutely. And the moment of impact itself.
Yeah.
Well, the descriptions from people there are harrowing.
Yeah.
One witness, Jordan Last, he recounted hearing a huge pop. He thought maybe fireworks at first. But within seconds, that horrifying realization hit. People started yelling, "Oh my goodness, Charlie was shot. He fell to the ground." He said he quickly took cover behind a cement pillar.
Understandable reaction.
Yeah. Then another witness, Radon Desheen, he was right at the front near the debate walkway. He heard one pop that seemed to come from up top. He saw Kirk grab his neck, said blood pouring out everywhere, and his eyes kind of rolled back. Just awful.
Oh, gosh.
Taylor Dew, another witness, positioned about 30 feet to Kirk's side, he similarly heard just one shot fired. As he dropped down, he looked over, saw a lot of blood coming from Kirk's neck as he was falling in his chair.
And the immediate aftermath was, swift and decisive. Kirk was struck in the neck. His security team got him out of there, off campus, very quickly. He was then transported by private vehicle to Timpanogos Hospital, and that's where he tragically passed away. the speed just underscores how critical that injury was.
Mm-hmm. And as this critical situation unfolded, the very next challenge popped up almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
These initial reports about a potential suspect, they were incredibly fluid, often conflicting.
Oh, definitely. This is a classic example of how quickly information can get muddled in a crisis. MSNBC, for instance, they highlighted that while the university initially said a suspect was in custody,
Right.
hours later, no law enforcement agency, not even the FBI director apparently, had confirmed it. That led to, clear perplexity among reporters.
Understandably. And Fox News Digital had something similar.
Yeah. They also initially reported an arrest, but then later updated their coverage. They had a statement from a UVU spokesperson confirming that, quote, the suspect that was initially in custody has since been released. So this back and forth really illustrates a core challenge in breaking news.
That rapid change in information just highlights how crucial clear communication is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially under that kind of intense public pressure.
Absolutely.
But that wasn't the only, let's say, wrinkle in how information was being handled, was it?
No, indeed. The confusion was later clarified, somewhat, in a press conference. Utah Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason, he stated that a person named George Zim was taken into custody,
Really?
but then released after investigators determined he just didn't match the shooter's description. However, Zim was apparently later booked by UVU police for obstruction of justice, so still involved somehow.
So not the shooter, but obstruction.
Exactly. And Commissioner Mason and Governor Cox further clarified there was a separate person of interest in custody being interviewed right then. They were very explicit. This individual was not George Zim, and an active investigation for the actual shooter was still ongoing.
Okay, so two different individuals initially detained or questioned.
Right. And adding another layer here, that MSNBC report also noted something interesting. The special agent in charge of the Salt Lake City FBI field office had been removed just 3 weeks prior, part of what was described as a purge of FBI leadership. 3 weeks before.
Yeah, and the expert on MSNBC suggested this could potentially have an effect on how information was being handled, how it was clarified during the crisis. It's a reminder of how, internal agency situations can sometimes intersect with major external events. Fascinating point. Okay, let's shift focus a bit now to the security arrangements for an event of this scale. You mentioned witnesses described the atmosphere leading up as quite lively, positive, like a festival-like atmosphere, attendees shouting USA and Charlie Kirk, listening to 80s music. It really paints a picture of a relaxed, sort of open gathering.
It does. But that festive atmosphere, it stands in really stark contrast to some critical observations those same witnesses made about security, or the lack thereof.
Oh.
Jordan Last, the same witness who heard the pop, he noted seeing people he assumed were security, with the curly wire coming out of their ears.
Standard earpiece, yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
he explicitly stated there were no metal detectors and no checking anything when people entered the courtyard. He even recalled thinking right then and there that anyone in here could have a gun.
Wow. He thought that before it happened.
Yeah. And Radon Desheen, the witness near the front, he echoed this. When asked about security at the entrance, he just said, there was none. And confirmed, no metal detectors or anything for us to go through.
That is striking.
Yeah.
Especially for a potentially controversial speaker at a large gathering. Suggests a very open, accessible venue.
Very.
So from the law enforcement perspective, what were the challenges here?
Well, UVU Police Chief Jeff Long, he was visibly distraught at the press conference. He called it a police chief's nightmare. Especially, for a department overseeing a campus with over 40,000 students. It's huge.
Yeah.
He confirmed 6 of his officers were working the event, plus some plainclothes officers mixed in the crowd.
Okay, so there was a police presence.
Yes. And the chief noted his department also collaborated closely with Kirk's own dedicated traveling security team. He said they are very comfortable on campuses. They know the environment.
Right. But despite all that.
Despite those measures, Chief Long lamented, and this was tough to hear, you train for these things, and unfortunately today we didn't. He was referring clearly to the failure to prevent the tragedy.
Yeah.
And that statement becomes even more significant when it was revealed later that the shot was believed to have come from a long distance.
A long distance. How far?
From a building about 200 yards away, possibly from a roof.
200 yards. That completely changes the security challenge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about controlling the immediate crowd anymore.
Exactly. It shifts it fundamentally to broader perimeter security, securing elevated positions, sight lines, a much tougher proposition in an open campus environment.
Definitely. Okay, the news of Charlie Kirk's death, obviously, sent shockwaves across the nation. Official reactions followed pretty quickly. President Donald Trump, he was among the first to confirm Kirk's passing. He did that on Truth Social, his own platform, describing Kirk as a truly great American patriot who was loved and admired by all. And in a poignant gesture, President Trump ordered American flags to be lowered to half-mast across the U.S. through Sunday night in Kirk's honor.
Yeah, those official responses really highlighted the profound political and societal impact. Vice President J.D. Vance offered condolences, urged prayers, called Kirk a genuinely good guy and a young father. And Utah Governor Spencer Cox delivered a really powerful statement. He unequivocally labeled the incident a political assassination. Strong words.
Very strong.
He emphasized that an act like this threatens the very foundations, the constitutional rights of free speech and open debate, especially on college campuses. Governor Cox vowed to find and prosecute the killer to the farthest extent of the law, and he explicitly mentioned Utah has the death penalty.
He didn't mince words.
No. And zooming out a bit, Governor Cox also used that platform to issue a really poignant call for unity. He urged anyone who might have, quote, celebrated even a little bit at the news to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere.
That's quite a plea.
It is. He starkly stated, our nation is broken, and pleaded for Americans to stop the hatred. He also confirmed he'd spoken directly with President Trump and Kash Patel, the FBI director, underscoring just how seriously this was being taken at all levels.
And beyond the politics, there's the personal tragedy. Messages of support and grief poured in for Kirk's family, right?
Yeah.
His wife, Erica, their young daughter born in 2022, and an infant son born just in 2024.
Yes. The human cost is just palpable in those messages. A young family shattered.
Terrible.
And the investigation itself, as you'd expect, became a massive multi-agency effort. We're talking the FBI, Utah Department of Public Safety, Orem Police, the UVU Police, the county sheriff, all working together.
All hands on deck.
Absolutely. They were in the process of setting up a digital media tip line, too, to gather any and all information from the public. Just illustrates the comprehensive approach needed for something this complex.
Okay, so beyond the official statements, beyond the complexities of the investigation, the raw human element of this tragedy.
Yeah.
It really stands out, doesn't it? You could hear it in the voices of people who were there.
Yeah.
Witnesses express being upset, sad, grappling with how anybody can hate someone this bad. Just raw emotion.
Yeah, and one point that was particularly striking came from that witness, Taylor Durr. He articulated this profound disconnect. He spoke about the joy and happiness he felt Kirk brought to people and this shared sense of purpose, coming together to build America up. And then, bam, this act of violence just shatters that sense of community, that hope.
It really highlights the shock, the betrayal almost that attendees must have felt.
Yeah.
How quickly that shared experience just turned into trauma. So this tragic event, it really compels us to ask some difficult questions, doesn't it? About these spaces traditionally meant for open debate. University campuses in particular. Governor Cox put it powerfully. He said these institutions are where truth and ideas are formulated and debated. And taking a life because of their ideas or their ideals, then that very constitutional foundation is threatened.
It's undeniable. This situation highlights a stark vulnerability in our open society where, a festive atmosphere, minimal security checks, it can just give way instantly to targeted violence. It really underscores that ongoing tension between upholding free speech, which is fundamental, and ensuring the basic safety of those who choose to engage in public discourse, especially, as we learned, when threats can come from significant distances, from unexpected places.
So our deep dive into the Charlie Kirk shooting today. It's taken us through that immediate chaos, the shifting narratives early on, the critical security challenges faced at public events like this, and the profound emotional and political fallout. It's really a stark reminder of how quickly information evolves in a crisis and the complex dance multiple agencies have to do under immense pressure.
It is. And it also compels us, I think, to consider the critical value of clear, verified information in those moments of crisis, and maybe the collective responsibility we all share in fostering a public discourse that's, less polarized, more respectful.
Yeah. So as you reflect on this complex web of information we've walked through, consider this provocative thought. In an age of instant communication, deeply held convictions, polarized views, how do we as a society protect these essential spaces for vigorous debate? And protect the safety of those who choose to participate in that debate? How do we do that without compromising the very freedoms we seek to uphold? It's a tough balance.
It really is. No easy answers there. And didn't one witness say something else?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. One witness claimed someone without a weapon confessed right there at the scene.
Confessed without a weapon.
That's what they claimed. Led them to speculate. Maybe it was a setup, maybe multiple people involved. But official reports so far don't back up a second shooter theory.
Lots of threats there.
And this kind of conflicting information, eyewitness accounts changing, it's actually pretty common in these high-stress, chaotic situations. Experts point that out.
Right. Memory isn't perfect under duress.
Exactly. And coordinating communication between university police, local cops, the FBI, it takes time to get everyone on the same page in the heat of the moment.
It makes you wonder about security, too. An open event outdoors?
That's a huge question. UVU Police Chief Jeff Long confirmed it. Open venue, outside. They had 6 officers, some plainclothes, plus Kirk had his own security.
But no metal detectors. No ticket checks.
No. Which, for a high-profile figure like Kirk, it definitely raises questions about balancing accessibility and security on campuses.
Yeah. And wasn't there something about the FBI office there recently?
There was. The special agent in charge of the Salt Lake City field office was removed just 3 weeks ago. Part of what some called a purge of FBI leadership.
Is that affecting this investigation?
The FBI says not at all. But, it's a data point people are noting.
Understandably. The political reaction, though, has been immediate and strong.
Very strong. Yeah. Governor Spencer Cox of Utah didn't mince words, called it a political assassination.
Wow.
Yeah. And he linked it to other recent political violence nationally. Said an attack on free speech hits the Constitution's foundation.
Yeah.
And he pointed out Utah still has the death penalty.
He also had a message for people reacting to the news, didn't he?
He did. He really implored anyone who might have celebrated even a little bit to think hard. He said, I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American.
Powerful words.
The FBI echoed that sentiment too, saying any attack on the First Amendment attacks democracy itself.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Mason also stressed, this is not in Utah. This isn't what we're known for.
So what does this all mean? I mean, it's clearly hit a nerve.
Absolutely. It tapped right into these deep societal divisions we have, ignited this huge conversation about civility, political rhetoric, violence. It's all interconnected.
So where does the investigation stand now?
Well, despite that initial confusion, law enforcement is saying this was targeted. They're assuring the public there's no ongoing risk to the community. They've gotten over 130 tips, which is huge.
Shows people want to help.
Definitely. And the FBI is still asking for public help. They're relying on those tips.
Okay. So an ongoing tragedy, still unfolding, a lot of weight there.
A tremendous amount. The shockwaves from this event continue to reverberate, and the investigation is ongoing. The following news clips, gathered from witnesses and news agencies, capture the immediate aftermath and unfolding details. Before we proceed, we want to issue a trigger warning. The following news clips and eyewitness accounts may be distressing as they depict the tragic events surrounding the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Viewer discretion is advised. As we prepare for the next segment, let us take a moment to reflect on the gravity of this situation.
Yes, let's do that. Then we'll be right back with the disappearance of Stefanie Damron, a 14-year-old who stormed out of her house after an argument with her older sister about chores and disappeared into the woods of her backyard, never to be seen again.
I've always been a conservative, Republican, Trump supporter, but he really got me into paying attention to the election last year and what I wanted to vote for. I had a little hope. I thought it would kind of be similar to Trump, that he was going to make it through. It would be something bigger after the fact. And then I saw the news break that he had died, and I felt devastated. I started shaking, honestly.
If you are a lover of liberty and free speech and conservative values, he was one of ours. He was a champion of everything we believe, so it's a devastating day.
It's a devastating loss, a huge loss, tragic loss. He was a father, young family, so it's very sad on that part. But also, there's no reason why things, won't continue as there are. There's lots of great people there. There's lots of people saying the same thing. And I have every confidence that Turning Point will continue and the movement will continue.
Yeah, is that fair to say? All right, great. So do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
I want to bring in Jordan last as we look at these images now, haunting images. Jordan was at today's event at Utah Valley University, and he saw what happened there. Sir, thanks for joining us. Can you take us through where you were, what you saw, and your reaction?
Sure. The event started about 12 p.m. I got there right in time, walked past their security detail and everything, tried to find the line to ask him a question. I actually was looking forward to challenging him on a couple things. I really respect him. I wanted to talk to him, and made my way over to where I thought the line was, which is maybe directly, I would say 50 to 100 feet to the right of Charlie Kirk. I guess, yeah, at his 3 o'clock. It was only a few minutes. Like the first question had just finished. It was kind of a longer question, so they had maybe done that for 10 or so minutes, and they had just gotten into the second question, I believe. And that's when I heard like a huge pop. Whenever I hear sounds like that, first I think, okay, maybe it's just fireworks. But after a few seconds, all of us kind of standing together, it's a very suspicious sound to hear with tons of people. There were so many people there. And there was I guess like a cement pillar or wall kind of right behind me. So as this suspicious sound has just gone off, I kind of put myself behind the wall. It was very, very good cover in case anything was happening. And then my brain was processing, it's a very loud sound. It seemed to me to come, in my mind, it came directly from the center of the crowd. I don't know where it came from, but that's just what my mind I guess was thinking. And then that's when, after a few seconds, people started saying like, oh my goodness, Charlie was shot. I saw him fall to the ground. And that's when I realized this is a serious situation. We all crouched down. We have great cover, but I was then just listening for more shots because obviously this could become a much worse tragedy than it already was. And there were no more shots coming. We were maybe 30 seconds passes, and that's when people started yelling, run. There was a door maybe 10 feet away from me. I had to lose my cover to get to the door, but it seemed like the best option. So crouch down and just go with the people.
Yeah.
As soon as I got through the door, I ran as fast as I could, I guess, and as far as I could.
Jordan, I'm glad you're all right to tell us about this. From all accounts, the atmosphere was, pretty pleasant, right? Pretty chill. People were into it. They were listening to their speaker. I'm wondering, you said security detail. You passed a security detail. Others have told us there was no security. So describe for us what it was like to get into this. I guess it's a quad there at the school.
Yeah, it's like a courtyard. There was definitely security. I mean, I'm not an expert on security, but they had the guys with the little curly wire coming out. So I assume that those were security detail. It was definitely there.
But no metal detectors.
No, there were no metal detectors. There was no checking anything. And in fact, I've been in not a shooting situation, but other dangerous situations before. And so I'm often thinking about these things. I did think, anyone in here could have a gun. No one checked me. So I was, it's just a thought that came through my head. Yeah, so it's very tragic.
Kind of a haunting image there. All right. Well, Jordan Last, thank you for sharing with us what you saw and what you did in those terrifying moments. She was at the event right now. She saw the attack. She's on the phone. Raydon, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If you could tell us where you were, what you saw, what happened.
Yeah, so I was clear up at the front. So they had the tent set up for where Charlie was going to be. And then they had the cattle grade set up with a little walkway for the people that were going to debate him. And then I was the grate right behind it. So I was right by the walkway. So I was right up front.
And then what happened? When the actual shot was fired, where were you? What did you see or hear?
So I was, he was just talking to the second debater. And ironically, it was about the transgender shooter. And, they're talking about, not allowing them to purchase firearms. And he was talking back and forth with the guy. And then all of a sudden I hear up top, I see Charlie. I think it got his carotid. I just saw him grab, it looked like his neck, and there's just blood pouring out everywhere. And his eyes kind of rolled back. And at that point, I kind of looked up because it sounded like it came up from behind me up the hill. And it was just one pop. And then we all dropped to the ground, and then they told us all to run. So we all ran out.
Yeah, I'm imagining pandemonium at that point. Did you see medical personnel attend to him, and what happened after that?
By the time I looked up, he was already off. He was already out. He was already out of the tent. There were some police officers up there. There was his security. There was no metal detectors or anything for us to go through. They didn't even check our tickets.
What about the gunman? Any sense of what became of the person? I don't know if it's a man or woman. The person who fired the shot?
Nope, I didn't see anything. I just dropped when everybody else dropped, and then I ran when they told everybody to run.
So you described it as a debate that was going on. So it was a debate between Charlie and someone else, or just a sort of a...
Yeah, so he does prove me wrong. And basically, because he's a right-winger, and, he's very, very, very good at his debates. And he invites mostly college kids to go up and debate him. And, a lot of them were, had a lot of the same views, but there was something that may be a little bit off that they don't quite agree with. So they're just trying to, debate him back and forth on their views versus his.
So it sounds like people from all points on the political spectrum. What about the atmosphere, the mood? What was it like leading up to that?
Oh, man, we were all having fun. We were shouting, USA and Charlie Kirk and listening to some, 80s music like Queen and that, and just stuff to pump you up. We're just all having a good time. Yeah, like a festival kind of atmosphere. I want to ask you about security. What was that like as you entered this area? And what kind of area is this? There was none. It was like, so when you walked in there, it was like a kind of in the crevice of the buildings with a bridge across it. And then behind it was like a grassy open area with a little bit of sitting that's kind of in a stadium seating. But it was like a little hill. And this is on the campus of Utah Valley University. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Are you a student there, or do you have an affiliation with the university? No, I'm old. I'm in my 50s, so a lot of these people were college-age students, but there was quite a few, actually, I would say, that were around my age, too. Yeah. And where did you get out? You ran out of there. Where'd you go, and what did everybody else do who was with you? We all just ran to our vehicles, and I don't know where everybody's scattered. I don't know if, some of them were students that, had to catch a bus or whatever. But the ones that have cars, we all ran to our cars. I mean, I parked a little ways away, so it was a little bit of a trek, but it was fine. But again, interesting, as you point out, no security, open area right there at Utah Valley University. Right on, Dasheen, I really appreciate your insight and your telling us your story. We thank you for that.
And we have new information into our CBS News 24/7 newsroom, an interview with a man who was at the event and spoke to Charlie Kirk just before the shooting. Let's take a listen.
But after I got done talking to him, I really couldn't exit because there's such a big crowd. So I turned around, and like 10 to 20 seconds later, after I got done talking to Charlie, I saw that he was shot in the neck and that he was squirting blood everywhere. But I was piecing things together, and it was really weird because the second guest that I talked to, before I went and asked him the question, what I was going to ask him, he was talking to him about how he was going to ask about transgenderism or something like that. But nothing about shootings. And this is the irony that came to me, which was like, right when he asked that, not like 5-10 seconds later, he was shot. And not only that, right after that, someone confessed to it who had no weapon, which makes me think that it was clearly a setup and that multiple people were involved. So, but prior to that, that's all I saw because everyone was squirming. Did you see anybody fire a shot? I didn't see anyone fire a shot. I think it had to come from an elevated position for sure. And I think it had to have been a long rifle based off of how, so Charlie was like 10 yards in front of me from where my microphone was. So even if you have a pistol, if someone was talking about a pistol and all this stuff and
All right, that was an interview from an eyewitness there who had just spoken to Kirk right before he had been shot. So obviously new information coming in.
We want to bring you the words of another eyewitness on the phone right now, Taylor Dufour. He was at the event with his wife. Taylor, What did you see? What did you hear? And where are you now?
I'm in our vehicle. We're still in the parking lot. We can't get out now. We were about 30 feet to the side of him, actually almost directly in line of the shot, is what it looks like from looking at videos. Everything was great. The conversation was not heated or anything. And then, next thing you know, we heard one shot fired, and everybody just dropped down and kind of started to go into panic mode. So my first thought was get my wife to the ground and lay on top of her and help those around us if they needed.
I can imagine just pandemonium, panic, and so forth. Did you see what happened to Charlie as he got shot and went down?
I actually didn't see it actually happen, but I did look over as he was still in his chair falling. I could see a lot of blood coming out of his neck.
EMS rushing to the scene?
Yeah. I mean, the police, everybody, that works in that industry, they were great. They got right to work, and we appreciate all those.
What was going through your mind? You said 1 second they were debating politics in a civilized way, and then this. What were you thinking as this was happening?
We actually, me and my wife have talked about that. It's such a great group of people that come together to listen to him, the joy and the happiness he brings to people, and the things that he talks about. And on the way there, we were talking about how cool it is that he doesn't have to live in the fear of having bulletproof glass around him and everything, because the people are so great that surround those events.
And how are you feeling right now? What's your main thought?
I'm actually upset. I'm sad that anybody could hate someone this bad, and that's such a great, people coming together regardless of political views. It's we're all coming together to build America up, make America a better place. And then we have this, like how somebody could hate somebody so bad. It sucks.
Yeah, I'll let that be the last word.
There were so many women and children here in the crowd that were just devastated and running scared, and we were just, and you can't help everyone. It's scary.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. Mr. Dufour.
Joining me here now is Brennan. He's one of the people who was here when all this happened. Now, Brennan is not a student here. He came all the way from Clearfield just to be a part of this and to see this. And Brennan, you were telling me you were right there when this happened.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was pretty packed when I got here. It took me about 30 minutes just to find parking. When I finally got there were thousands of people, I would say. He was kind of like in a pit almost, and we were kind of gathered up like some stairs. I kind of moved my way closer. I was about 15 feet away. He was actually just talking about mass shootings too, which is crazy, with the trans shooting that just happened recently with the trans shooter. And as soon as he got done answering the question, we heard a loud pop. He got hit in the left side of his neck and dropped. We all dropped. His security dragged him out of there, and we just ran. So, it's crazy.
I can't imagine. This is probably terrifying. You're there just to hear the debate, to be a part of this. You hear the shot. You said you hit the ground.
Yeah, obviously, because at first we didn't know what it was. You know what I mean? Right. Once we figured it out, I was more angry, I would say, than terrified. We hear all the time that we're the problem, we're the violent ones, we're the issue, and yet this is the second mass shooting attempt on a political figure. First Donald Trump, now we have Charlie Kirk, but yet we're the problem. I don't know of any mass shootings that happened with Joe Biden. I don't know any of Obama. I don't know of any of the Democratic side, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but we got to come together. This is ridiculous. Whether you believe what he says or not, we got to stop all this nonsense.
Right, and absolutely, and it's one of those things too. No matter what side you're on, we should be able to have debate openly without the violence. No matter what side you're on, it's very charged. It's very political right now.
Exactly.
But I like what you said. We should come together. This needs to stop, no matter what side.
Right. Yeah, and I completely agree with that. Everything going on in the world, everything's so hostile now when it comes to political parties. We got to stop all of this. Like I said, they blame us, we blame them. We got to stop and just come together. We got to stop having a political agenda and get them to turn us against each other like they are. And it's just what they want, and we got to stop. And because I wear the stuff I wear, people look at me like as a bad person, but I think I'm a good person. I don't care what you believe. As long as you're a good person, that's all I care about.
Brandon, thank you so much for your
That's
time.
great.
Sorry, because it's chilling. When you see the videos, it's chilling. Sorry you saw this, but I know you're probably heading out and trying to figure out, you've been chatting with your friends, so it's just one of those things, just figuring out what next, Brandon.
Absolutely. We'll be all right.
Thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate you. But here is Kim, her daughter Bentley, and Wes. They were just here for the debate themselves. Not students here. You said you used to be a student here, but you didn't hear the shots, you said, Kim, but all of a sudden you saw people running. That had to be terrifying.
Yes. We were heading to the event, and all of a sudden there were just a group of people just running down the hallway, and they're like, shots have been fired, there's gunshots, run, run, run. So I grabbed my daughter, and we just booked it out of there. It was scary because you don't know if it's real, if it's not, but you just have to go with your gut and get out of there. But it was scary. The adrenaline shot up through my body, and chills, and just, we were freaking out.
And you know, we always hear about this. This always happens somewhere else, but when it's happening right where you are, all of a sudden it's as real as it gets, and you freeze. What do you do?
I didn't really understand what was going on, and we just heard gun, and I was like, what's going on? So I tried to alert other people. My mom was like, Bentley, run. So we just ran and found the nearest door to exit out, and it was just terrifying. You get chills, and you kind of freeze, but you're like, I have to save my life and everything. So that's just, it was scary, and it didn't feel real. So.
And Mom, as her mom, you know, we're hearing from a lot of parents who have students here. Their kids go to school here, terrified. You were with your daughter seeing this. It's not only yourself now, but you're thinking of your daughter.
Yeah, very scary. I just wanted to get us out of there, and there was people that were just kind of standing around, looking around, and I'm like, grab one of the girls. I'm like, you need to run, get out, because people kind of didn't know what was going on.
Their headphones.
And I'm like, leave your food, run. And I don't know, it was scary. I wanted to get everyone out.
I don't blame you. Let me chat with Wes real quick, too. Where were you when this happened, Wes?
So I was in a room fairly close to where it happened, and then some people just ran in and yelled active shooter, so we all just got out.
You hear those words, active shooter. They become normal words almost in America anymore, but still, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, really none of us believed it at first, and then we still just got out and saw the hordes of people running, so.
Now just coming around chatting with people, that's kind of what you do now, because you're sharing a terrible experience with others. It's how you, decompress and deal a little bit.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, talking here seems to help with people who experience it in the parking lot as well.
Yeah. I'm sorry you went through this, Wes. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And ma'am, I'm so sorry. Tell me, where were you when this happened? I heard you chatting with Kim and Bentley. You were pretty close.
I was really close. Watching the whole thing, I was probably on the second level up from, I've never been to this place except for classic car shows, so I can't really explain to you, but I was to the left of Charlie, super clear view. Saw everything happen, heard the gunshot. I was the last one standing because I couldn't quite believe. I thought maybe it was a stunt. And then everybody fell to the ground. We all fell to the ground. I got pushed into some bushes. I stayed there. There was a lady with her elderly mom, and I said, is she okay? And she said she's okay. So we just kind of stayed in the bushes for a few minutes, maybe a minute and a half. And then a man said, go this way. And we went right where Charlie had come in and out. And I was right behind the police when they had the man in the handcuffs, and I was standing right there next to them as he was on his knees, and he said, I would say multiple times, but at least twice, just shoot me. And I videoed it, and I called him every name in the book that I could think of, which is probably not appropriate, but I was shaken, ball, and mess. I'm still shaking, and I'm still crying. I love Charlie Kirk. He's awesome. And I pray for him and his family. And I pray for everybody that was here to witness this. It's awful, and I don't understand why we can't have something like this that is truly innocent. There were the non-believers, the ones that didn't like him, and that's fine. But to shoot him, he doesn't deserve this.
That's the part I keep hearing from a lot of people too, is like, look, no matter what side you're on, this shouldn't happen.
Never, never, ever, never. And I will always help anyone. I don't care if they're a Democrat, Republican, conservative, it does not matter. And I asked a girl, hey, can you tell me what building this is? And she looked at my hat and she said, not with that fat hat, no way. And I was like, okay, well, that was rude, but whatever, you know, to each their own. But it's sad. It's really sad, the America that we have today.
I don't know. People keep saying, how do we fix this? And you keep thinking, is this tragedy going to be the spark that gets us back together? Because something is wrong, and we need to come together. But how?
I wish I had that answer. Oh gosh, that's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? I wish I knew. Prayer. Pray. Stand up for your beliefs. Don't back down. Don't listen to the propaganda. Do your own research. Don't take one person's opinion as fact. Look into things for your own. I don't know.
You're still shaking.
I am.
I'm shaking just talking to you. But one thing that hit me when you were talking is you saw Charlie get shot.
Yes.
And then you were waiting because I think you don't know where it came from. You don't know how many people there are. You don't know what's going. That's terrifying.
Right. And like I said, I wasn't sure because he was literally talking about how many mass shootings from trans people. That's literally what they were talking about when it happened. And when I saw him get shot, I like I said, I was probably the only one standing still for a minute because I was like, what the heck just happened? I thought maybe it wasn't real. And unfortunately it was real.
Now you're leaving, you're trying to get out of here, but you're talking with people you probably never met before because that's how you cope. This was a tragedy and you were there.
Right.
You talk about it.
Right, and this lovely lady here, I just said pray, as I didn't realize that you guys were the news. I just said pray for Charlie, and she said, are you okay? I don't know her, and she gave me a hug, and and I thanked her again for the hug because that's how we need to be. We need to be more loving and kind to our people. All of us. It doesn't matter the color of your skin or, your political background. It doesn't matter. We're human beings, we're Americans, and we should stand tall for each other.
Thank you for your time. I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry that you witnessed this and went through this, and I know the adrenaline is wearing down now, and that's where it really hits, but thank you for your time and sharing some of that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
My
your
name's
time.
Elisa.
Elisa, I'm Alex. Thank you for your time.
Nice to meet
Thank you so much. You said you want to do your time.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
So Elisa, Kim, Bentley, Wes, just some of the people here who witnessed this, who were a part of this, just coming here to be a part of the debate. I'm going to interview somebody named Taylor Westmoreland, and she's special to me because this is actually my niece. I've never really interviewed a family member before, but Taylor was on campus when this happened, heard the gunshots, and so I found out she was here, so that's kind of terrifying when you have a family member here. But Taylor, tell me, what did you tell everybody? What did you hear? You know what I mean? What did you hear, and then what happened?
Yeah, my friend and I got there pretty late, and so when we arrived, we were right in the building behind him, and we just heard a gunshot, and everyone just started screaming. It was really chaotic, and we just ended up turning and running. There was just crowds of people screaming, and then just like shooter, gun, and then we ended up getting outside, but it was chaotic for a really long time, really scary.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, what do you do when you hear that gun shots?
Yeah,
you freak out.
I was kind of like in disbelief for a second, and when everyone was running, and then I just started booking it. My friend threw her drink, and we just got out of there like as fast as we could. But
this is always something that happens somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it's odd to be a part of something like this. It's horrible, of course, and really sad for him and his family, but yeah, it was really scary. I'm glad everyone got out okay.
Okay, Taylor, give me a hug. I'm happy you're doing okay, and that we met up and that you're doing well.
Okay.
Thanks, Taylor. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you're
Thanks,
good.
Taylor.
Thank you.
You said you saw this happen?
Yeah.
Explain to me what you saw.
Yeah, so I was in the front row, and I was preparing to ask Charlie a question because I film a lot of videos out here in Utah, and it was going to be more lighthearted, and I was just watching him speak with somebody that he was debating with, and then I just heard a shot, ring out, and I was watching Charlie the entire time. And then his left neck, I saw a bunch of, just a lot of blood just squirting out. Haven't seen that before.
And what was your thought as you stand there and you witness this? Did it take you a second to process it, or did you immediately know what was going on?
At first, I couldn't believe it at first. Like I said, I haven't seen this before, so at first I was like, there's no way this is real. and then everyone is just getting down. Everyone's piling onto each other. People are running out, trying to get out of the way, of course. Thank goodness shots weren't fired onto the students. But everyone, of course, there's a lot of fear that just arose out of left field.
And then what was the immediate reaction? Were people trying to help each other? Was it more of just everybody started to panic and try and get out there? Kind of would describe the scene with what people were doing.
It was mostly panic. People just trying to run out, get out of the way. At first everyone was just piling onto each other. Then people started to run out, run around the barricades, hide around cars and stuff. And then people started to just leave. So I just hopped in a car with a couple fellas I met, and thankfully they just drove me out, dropped me off somewhere, and we were good.
Now, just describe where it was, because I saw a video, and he's underneath his canopy, it's on a chair. Where was it? Was there a lot of space out where people were speaking, or was it kind of enclosed? Kind of describe that space.
So I was behind the barricade, and there were about 5 people in. I was behind the barricade, and there were about 5 people in line. Ahead of me, I'd say I was about 15, 20 feet away from him. And there was space in between, of course, the barricade and him, and he had his security and all of his folks that work and all of his folks that work with him. But yeah, in the crowd there were so many people, and then you had a bunch of folks behind him on a wall, hanging LGBTQ flags, speaking their voices. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of folks.
All right, hold on a second, Alex. And then, as you saw the wound on his neck, because it looks like this gunshot went off, he did this and fell over. Was there much more to that? Did he move when he hit the ground? Was he saying anything or trying to say anything?
From what I saw, I just saw the blood bursting out, and then he just fell. I don't know if he put up his hand at all. I just saw him fall over once blood started gushing out.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I've got for you. Is there anything else I'm not asking you want to mention?
Nothing off the top of my head.
Okay, and what about the political climate these days? More and more you're seeing a lot of just hate on both sides and sort of violence. Do you have a kind of a feeling on the national dialogue and what it should be versus what it is?
I think a majority of us, if not all of us, can agree that violence obviously isn't I think a majority of us can agree that violence isn't the answer, and it is what it is. It's really unfortunate. Prayers to Charlie and his family. It's really unfortunate what happened, but this is not worth it for anybody.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Unfortunately, it was a date gone wrong for a student that I'm next to, Nick Ekman. He was so excited to see Charlie, and he's so sad about this news. Tell us, what were you feeling? What were you seeing when all of this happened?
Yeah, honestly, the fact that it just happened all quickly, and when it just happened, everything just went crazy. People started running, screaming, shouting, yelling. People didn't know if it was them next. And honestly, for me, I was worried that, I came to see a guy, but this guy was a family man. He had kids. I loved what he was talking about and bringing up that dialogue. And so honestly, my whole purpose in being here and coming today was just to learn a little bit more. And the fact that it ended so quickly, so fast in that way, it scared me because I felt like, what's going on? What does this mean? What does this mean for students like me? We can't engage in dialogue or even come to a place where we can engage in dialogue. Absolutely did not expect it, wasn't prepared for it mentally and emotionally, even physically, still shaking. A lot of people were shaky. Seeing stuff happen that way was insane.
The interesting thing is you came specifically to see him. You are not even a UVU student, you're a BYU senior, and you came here for him. So the fact that all of this unfolded the way it is, or way it did, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, he decided to come to UVU, and I really didn't care. My friends really didn't care. We wanted just to come see him, so we were willing to make the travel plans. I had a buddy saving a seat for me, too, and I was super excited. And to see it end just like that, in that horrific fashion, so early in it, was unbelievable and completely uncalled for. Nothing like that should ever happen.
So you were trying to find a parking spot to go in, excited to see Charlie, and then what happened?
People started running out the doors. They started fleeing. People were yelling, not only obscenities, but they were yelling run, 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 because they didn't know what was going on other than there was a bullet shot. And so I had people just running in front of me, running next to me, and I was super nervous, and I was like, I got to get out of here too.
So at the time you were on a date, and then you were coming over here trying to find parking, so that's like a date gone wrong, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah. I like I said, I was coming back from a lunch date, and I decided to come and running a little bit late, and as I was trying to find that parking spot, everybody just started running and mayhem caused. And my buddy had brought his little sister. And so that was one of the things I was concerned about was, is his little sister okay? Because I knew my buddy was okay, but I was worried that his sister wasn't okay. So I immediately was trying to call him, contact him, and make sure that his sister was okay.
Now, you've received an unofficial text, but with the echo chambers that, they're hearing all sorts of things. We're trying to sift things out still.
Yeah.
What was that text that you did get?
Yeah, so I actually just received a text from somebody that is claiming that Charlie Kirk's wife and maybe a kid or both of his kids were actually at the event today. I can't imagine a worse thing for a mother or a child to go through than to see a horrific tragedy like that happen.
What are your thoughts, though, going forward as far as Charlie Kirk and maybe following or even watching reruns? I mean, at this point, what is it?
This is a man who was an incredible father, an example to me on what it's like to be a father to kids and to be an incredible husband to a wife. He pushed that so hard, and for young men like me, all I wanted to be was just to be a great husband and to be a great potential father one day. He's gone now. That means his kids aren't going to be able to see a dad, and his wife is going to have to, live alone without a husband potentially. For me going forward, I want to see dialogue happen, but it cannot end like this. You can disagree with me, I can disagree with you, but I will never ever wish upon anyone their life to be ended with a bullet, any type of weapon in any way. You deserve to live, you have worth and value. I want to engage in dialogue with you, I want to understand you, but I will not disagree with you to the point where I don't believe you belong here on earth. Unfortunately for Charlie today, that's what happened.
Nick, thank you so much for your thoughts. I really appreciate it. I'm going to start with Nick. Nick actually was there in a middle row. Nick, tell us a little bit about what happened. Tell us your last name first.
Nick Call.
Tell us exactly what happened, what you saw.
So, I was just watching him speak, and he was talking about gang violence, and then I just hear like a loud pop. And I'm looking at him, and it doesn't even look real. I'm only 18 years old. I've never experienced a lot of death in my life, but this is like the first time I've ever seen somebody die, and my heart was just racing. It was so scary, and I was just appalled. Like everybody just flopped to the floor, and I just tried to do what everybody else was doing. It was really scary.
Oh, I can't even imagine how scary that would be. Did you drop to the ground as well? Were you waiting to see, is there going to be another shooting? I mean, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I instantly just dropped to the floor. I didn't know if he was a mass shooter, like he was there to shoot everybody there. But when I was on the floor, there were some group of people at the top. They cheered when he got shot. And I was just appalled. I couldn't believe the lack of human life that some people have.
The lack of empathy there. Oh, that's appalling. I agree. Now, when you saw what you saw, did you have a certain direction that you heard the shot come from, or did you think it was just one shooter?
Yeah, so I was facing towards him, and it looked like the shot came from my left, so his right, and it just went through his neck and out the other side. It was gruesome.
Now that we're still trying to parse through information and we know that the shooter is at large, what are your thoughts now?
I hope they catch this guy. Nobody deserves to die, no matter what your political beliefs are. And I just think that if you do something like this, you deserve to go to jail for life.
Thank you for sharing. I'm going to move on now to Jack. We have two Jacks here, so I'm going to start with you, Jack. What's your last name?
Jack Stevenson.
And tell me, where were you? How did you hear about this? What are your thoughts now?
Yeah, so I was just kind of like on the middle left, farther away from Nick. But I just heard about it through social media, and I came to hear Charlie Kirk speak just because I thought it would be interesting and see what he had to say, and yeah, so that's why I came.
So now, in the aftermath, we're trying to piece things together. What are your thoughts now?
Just prayers for his family is honestly just what I've been thinking this whole time. Like Nick said, no one deserves to die, especially with a wife and 2 young kids at home and all of his extended family. I cannot even imagine what they're going through right now.
Thank you so much, Jack. All right, Jack, what's your last name?
Watkins.
Okay, you were there and you specifically came out to see Charlie, correct? Yeah. What were your thoughts at the time?
Well, so I was with Jack Stevenson here, and
we were kind of just like, we should just go like for fun, just to see. We don't really care like about Charlie Kirk, but like, you know what I mean? Just go, you know, and just to be there, like, and like, it was good. Like it was really fun, but just like, it's just crazy that chaos just happened so quickly. And I mean, that's kind of all, I don't know.
Do you have second thoughts about going to something like this in the future?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, a little, like it's pretty traumatizing, but I don't know. I mean, this doesn't really happen. Like he's gone to colleges all over the world, and it's just crazy that it happened at my college. You know what I mean? Like I just signed up to go here and just, you know, enrolled, and it's crazy to see that like the one thing that I go to, something has to happen, and it's just horrible, but I don't know.
Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing.
Hi, I'm Brett.
And I'm Jonathan.
This is Darla.
And this is Bud.
Your thoughts.
Tell me where you were when all this happened. What was your position in all of this?
So my thing is that after I got done asking my question first with Charlie, because I was the first speaker, you know, we basically ended saying, you know, like, hey, Mormons love Charlie, Charlie loves Mormons, and I kind of went off to the right, grabbed my phone because I had some friends recording, and I really couldn't exit, so I just had to turn around because there was just a crowd of people and there was no way to kind of get through the crowd because it's so compact.
Henry, I appreciate the time. You also got Ryan over here, right? That's correct. So, Henry, you asked a question right before the individual did after you. What did he ask, and then what happened?
So basically he just asked questions about transgenderism, and it led into like transgender violence and shooters and stuff like that based off of, you know, what's been happening around the country, and it's just been a problem. But I just thought it was very hard to reconcile for a while there. I think I was just in a state of shock, but the fact that it was like 10 to 20 seconds after I walked away, I turned back and I see Charlie just gushing blood from his neck. And after that, you have a random old kook who has no weapon but confesses to the shooting for some reason. And I'm not okay with that, because that took up a lot of cops that were there at the time that could have been searching for the shooter, because the shooter's at large. We don't know where he's at. They're, like you said, they're clearing room by room. And I think a lot of us are super angry. Because it's just a lot.
So you're telling me that the person, that older gentleman who we've seen video on social media, who claims to possibly have shot him, you're saying you don't believe he was the shooter?
He didn't have a gun. He didn't have a weapon on him. He just confessed to it, and they grabbed him, pulled him over. Because I'll tell you this, I was there about an hour and a half before the thing even started, before everyone showed up, and he was going around and talking to any conservatives and stuff, just bashing Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's this, Charlie Kirk's a racist, Charlie Kirk's blah, 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 blah. And he was just making a scene. And it doesn't surprise me. He didn't, from what I could tell, he didn't have anything on him. If they did, I don't think they would be looking for the shooter, because they would, if it was him, they would have the weapon with him, but it wasn't there. So that's the whole thing.
And you've heard since in the last moments, President Trump sent out as well on social media that he passed away.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I had a friend actually who just sent me a message. There were a bunch of friends who'd seen me already on the news and stuff have been messaging me, telling me like, yeah, dude, he didn't make it. And I think me and Ryan and a whole bunch of us are just fed up with it. We don't know. There's stuff that needs to happen. It needs to change. Opinions shouldn't lead to shootings. I'm sorry.
I think most people would probably agree with that.
Yes,
you
sir.
hope so, at least.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Henry. Ryan, let me talk to you a little bit, and you can stay here as well, Henry, if you'd like. Talk to me about where you were. Were you two together when this happened, or where were you standing?
No, I was about 50 feet away. I was in the thick of the crowd. I was working my way up to the stand to ask Charlie some questions. At that moment that the shot rang out, I look over and I see Charlie Kirk slump over for just a split second, and the crowd just pushes back. There's a huge stampede pushing back. People are jumping into the fountain. People are running towards the building. I stuck around, tried to stay away out of everybody's way, pulled out my phone, started to take some video. I got down there closer to the stand, and there was very little police presence. However, at that time, I believe that was when they had taken Charlie away. That's when they had already taken the alleged suspect away. But as Henry mentioned, with that suspect, we were talking to somebody from Deseret News who said they recognize this individual, and he goes to political events. He goes to a lot of events with news and with media, and he tries to
Store contention.
Yep, he tries to gain attention, tries to take credit for what's going on, and here he is jumping up right after the shot saying he did it. So that's really concerning to know, and I mean, hence the police presence that we see here today. It looks like they have not apprehended the actual shooter.
Did you see the shot fired?
I didn't. It did sound like it came from the right side of me, and I tried to look, but I was getting pushed back by the crowd. I was talking to a professor who works here, and he said with the view that anybody could have had of Charlie, it could have been from 200 yards away. So I think that's why we're seeing drones in the air. That's why we've got helicopters in the air. We have a SWAT response. We're seeing snipers. So I think they're still trying to figure out really where the shot came from.
Last thing I'll ask you, you described the chaos. What were you feeling and thinking in the middle of that chaos immediately after shots were fired?
I was thinking there is no way that this can be real. Being here in Utah where it's relatively safe, a UVU campus, where there's a lot of like-minded individuals, you always hear people say you never think it's going to happen to you. I have a different mindset. I think of always being prepared, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I hope that everybody who's seeing this event unfold, I hope that this is their call to action, to speak up, to stand out, to make change, because this is unacceptable. We can't live like this.
And I'll ask you, we've heard this a lot from people about there needs to be a change, from people who were there on campus. We hear this from politicians as well. What is that change? What's going to change somebody from doing something like this?
Like I said, we were speaking to a teacher earlier, and he was talking about how practically the entire university, the chair, the president, the chair, no one was informed. No one was informed that that there was not going to be enough security or anything. Some people were in class not even knowing Charlie was coming. I don't think that's okay, especially after what happened in Butler in Pennsylvania with President Trump and all this stuff. We know that this violence exists, and we all know that Utah's had a lot of progressives come into the state, and with the same old rhetoric that leads to instances like this. And I think it's the rhetoric of people saying like, oh, well, we saw people that were smiling when it happened. We saw people that were like, oh, good shot. All from, this certain group of people.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not right. Both of you, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad you're safe.
Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing your stories and your eyewitness accounts. So thank you.
Yes.
The manhunt is in full force for the shooter who assassinated firebrand conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Police say Kirk was shot from 200 yards away during an event at Utah Valley University, sending thousands of spectators running. Democrats and Republicans this morning calling for an end to political violence. We have live team coverage on the shooting and the reaction from Washington. News Nation's Xavier Walton has the latest from Utah Valley University. And Xavier, this is Utah's largest public university. It's captured on camera. How's the shooter still at large right now?
Marky, good morning. I think that's the question that, everyone is trying to figure out. How is someone, the shooter, not been captured? How is he not in custody? How are they not in custody? We don't know if it's a man or a woman at this point, but still a massive manhunt to give everybody an idea of where we are on campus. This is as close as we can get, but the shooting happened just off in that direction, the political assassination, if you will. At that last press conference late last night, police essentially asking anyone from the public who may have video or any information that may help with their investigation to really just come forward, a call for help so they can apprehend whoever is responsible. Here's what we know right now, at least confirmed information. It was one single round from a rifle, one shot fired about 2 football fields away from a rooftop. Police also, they apprehended 2 persons of interest, if you will. They took them into custody. They questioned them. They interrogated them, and then they let them go. But at this point, we know that that person, whoever fired that shot, was wearing dark clothing. But ultimately, right now, police are asking for the public's help from witnesses that were here that may have seen or heard something when all of this took place. And I say witnesses because I'm actually beside a few witnesses who were here yesterday, Marky, when all of this unfolded. I have Jackson, Natalie, and Stefanie, who are here this morning. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time you've been back since this happened?
That's right.
Yeah. Jackson, I'm going to start with you. We were talking before we came on. You're a big fan of Charlie Kirk. You were pretty close to where he was and when this happened. Can you kind of share with everybody what you saw and what it was like for you?
I just heard a big loud noise like a
popper that you can buy on the 4th of July. And I looked over at Charlie and I just saw him fall back in his chair. And everybody was just ducking and running inside. And it was all just so scary.
Jackson, how close were you? I mean, it was allowed, I had one shot, but how close were you? And you say you watched him fall back. I mean, what does it feel like in that moment?
It felt unreal. I was probably like 25 feet away maybe. It felt really unreal, and I just wanted him to be okay.
And Natalie, you were there too, with a big group of people, right?
Right.
What's going through your mind? You hear a shot, right? And then everyone scatters. What was going through your head?
Right. I'm with my sister, and Jackson's our nephew. We were with 16 family members and 10 children. So as soon as we heard the shot go off, we were looking for each other and trying to find people. And as everyone was scattering and looking around, we're trying to find everyone there.
You said 16 people?
Uh-huh. Yeah, my parents and my sisters, and he's really, and our kids, and he's really a hero for us and for so many people in this country. He's stood up for free speech. He showed us how we could dialogue with each other in a respectable manner, and we really looked up to him as a hero.
And Stefanie, you were here as well. I mean, your reaction, I mean, you're running for your life. You see stuff like this happen. Do you ever think, I mean, it's going to happen at the event you're going to?
Sometimes you think that because when you are in a patriot and you're trying to stand up for the right things for our country, we gather a lot and things like that. So you kind of always know that's a possibility. But I think that, my goodness, it was such a eventful minute. As the second the shots went down, everybody just dropped to the ground. But I stayed up because we had too many family members there and trying to look for all of us and unite. And it took us about 30 to 40 minutes to be able to locate each other. Our cell phones didn't work. It was just a lot of mayhem and just, I don't know, such a sad day for America. Sad day for everyone.
Yeah, and you mentioned mayhem, you mentioned chaos, and here's the thing, right? They're still looking for whoever caused all of it, whoever pulled the trigger. There's a massive manhunt, local, state, federal, FBI's involved. You know, how do you all feel? Natalie, I'm going to start with you. How do you feel knowing that the person who pulled the trigger is still out there?
Well, it's unsettling, and we are so grateful for the law enforcement who is doing a great job to try to locate this individual or multiple individuals, and we're very grateful for their help with this.
I mean, thinking you have, the kids and family and whoever did this is still out there. You say unsettling, but I mean, you're back on the campus now where all of this happened.
Right. Well, and as you said earlier, we really feel like it was a political assassination. It was targeted against Charlie Kirk. I didn't personally feel, after the shot, I didn't feel like it was going to, that any other, I mean, we just heard that single shot and it felt like it was just for him. I didn't know if it would go to other people. So, I mean, I don't expect that this individual is on campus, but we don't know where that person is.
So one single shot echoing obviously across the country and really across the world. Jackson, you were with friends, right? You were 12 years old. I mean, you're there watching Charlie Kirk, and then all this happens. How did you get to safety? What was it like in that moment for you? And then even, knowing that police are still trying to catch the person who did this, how does that kind of make you feeling?
It's really scary and strange. And we were just running inside, and we were running around, and some guy, college student probably, pulled us into this room with maybe 30, 35 people in there, and we were all, and the lights turned out and it was just all dark and everybody was scared.
Yeah, it sounds really scary. Stefanie, I want to ask you this. Charlie Kirk had his own security detail, but what was security like as a whole at the event? Did you feel like there was enough given the political climate?
Well, I mean, now you could say no, but we shouldn't be needing that much security to we're in America. We shouldn't be in a situation where we have to have every little piece covered. And I just think if somebody is going to do this, they're going to do this. I don't know how to stop it. Besides, the biggest thing is we cannot, it was a political assassination, so we have to, it's really important that we don't have, the nation is so confused about taking away our guns. It's like, we need guns. Bad people will always be able to get guns. So this is like a event that after we saw Charlie get shot, and then as time goes on, we're seeing more and more SWAT members and police coming in, and all with their big guns. It's like, that's when you're really grateful too, because you're like, we need the right people to have guns. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no room for political violence. Natalie, just really quick here, last question. I mean, did you feel safe? I mean, you had a family here. You said 16 people. Did you feel safe being at this event?
I did. I felt safe coming in. Like my sister Stefanie, we attend a lot of political events. We always know there's an inherent risk. But also, like Charlie, we share that same faith that we believe in there's a bigger purpose, and that God is in charge, and you can't live with fear. And I felt a lot of peace through that.
Absolutely. All right, Marky, Natalie, Jackson, thank you very much. Stephanie, thank you very much. But yeah, Marky, so you heard it here. They were here when all of this happened, and just hearing some of the chaos and what they went through, it is amazing to hear them speak so, strongly and powerfully. So we thank them for that. But Marky, as far as that investigation, in a couple of hours, police are going to hold an update, a press conference not far from here. We're going to be at it.
I want to bring to the conversation some new reporting and ask you, Ken, and you, Chris, to square it with what we originally heard. The university is now saying that there is, quote, no suspect in custody. Ken Delanian, I know it's early, I know it's frantic, but I thought there were reports that a suspect was in custody initially.
Not only reports, the university actually conveyed that to reporters, Nicole, so that's perplexing. But at the same time, it was curious that no law enforcement agency, we're now 2 hours plus after the incident, no law enforcement agency had confirmed that a suspect was in custody. The FBI director has been posting on social media about this. He hadn't confirmed that. So I guess that explains the sort of lack of information. The university may have misspoke. Because they were saying that the shot came from a building 200 yards away. So that now raises the question of, did the shooter get away? If in fact no suspect is in custody, being that far from the scene, did the shooter flee? Obviously, we're all gonna make some calls to law enforcement on this, Nicole, and try to get to the bottom of it.
If you need to go do that, Ken Delanian, don't let us slow you down from your reporting on this. I would ask you, Chris, to take us through your understanding of this discrepancy. The latest information we have from the university is that there is, quote, no suspect in custody.
Yeah, so I think we just need some time to let it play out. So what generally happens in critical incidents is you get mixed reporting from eyewitnesses, which are traditionally very unreliable because the stress factor doesn't allow them to gather the information they think they see or they perceive. In active shooters or mass shooters, shooting events, you often hear reports of multiple shooters because the violence and the sound, makes people think there's got to be more than one attacker. And rarely are there multiple gunmen. So there's also, university police might not be connected properly to the FBI and locals, and just they don't have the communication out just right now. There could be a subject in custody, but maybe not in the university's custody. So I think they just need to clean up their messaging. I would be shocked if we didn't get leadership from the FBI or somebody cleaning this up soon, giving a status report on what's going on, because that's one of the most important things that FBI leadership could do. I will highlight, and Ken knows about this quite a bit, the special agent in charge of the Salt Lake City field office was removed from her position just 3 weeks ago. Career counterterrorism professional, great with partnerships, great in crisis events. I've worked personally with her, but she was removed from the post as part of this purge of FBI leadership. So that's going to have an effect.
And she was removed as part of the other stories that, frankly, we were going to cover today, and that is a political purge of the top tier talent at the FBI.
Not quite sure the reasons behind why no good reason was given. She was told she was a wrong fit for the Salt Lake City field office. I worked with her for decades. She was one of my agents on the New York Joint Terrorism Task Force, worked some of the top counterterrorism cases for the FBI, a proven player, and she was summarily removed 3 weeks ago. She was at the conference with us today.
All right, if you're just joining us, Charlie Kirk, American icon, my friend, dead tonight at 31. He was assassinated while speaking to kids, young people, at a college campus event at Utah Valley University.
Holy
Here with me is Jason Chaffetz, former Utah congressman, Fox News contributor. Jason's been with Fox most of the day because Jason was there today. Jason, I know you've told different versions of this, but very specifically, and I know how incredibly devastated you are, that goes without saying, but tell us exactly what happened leading up to the gunshots.
There were 2,000 plus people there to hear Charlie Kirk and talk and take questions from anybody and everybody. And straight up at noon, he came out, was throwing hats to everybody. Prior to him stepping out, they were chanting USA, USA. Another chants were Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk. They were chanting that. I'd venture to say 95+% of the people were younger than the age of 30. And they were ready there for some dialogue. And there's a group in this shot right there. Those people closest to you up on that second level, that's where they had a transgender flag. And Charlie leaned over and invited him, hey, come be part of the conversation. And, the crowd cheered. But the first person got up and asked a question about religion. And he went way out of his way to a predominantly, we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, predominantly, not everybody, the Mormons, if you will. And he said, look, I'm not here to bash on people. I'm on my own spiritual journey. I want you to be on your spiritual journey. I'm not here to bash LDS people. This is who I believe. And the first speaker disagreed with him, and he bantered with him. The second person, Laura, came up and said, I have a question about transgender shooters, mass shooters. And before they even started that dialogue, the shot rang out. I saw Charlie, fall back to his left, and the crowd hit the ground. You heard screams, and then people started running. And some of those shots, one's on foxnews.com, I can see myself in the background of that shot. That's the picture at the event. And it was just horrific. It was just so devastating. And I have every emotion. I'm mad because I want to know who the shooter is. I want people to understand there's true evil that needs to be rooted out. But I also want them to know there's pure good. That my kids, people in our family who are in their 20s, they were excited to meet two people. I meet a lot of people. I'm on television. I'm a former congressman. Yeah. There's two people in the world they want to meet. Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, my son Nico was the same thing. They wanted to meet Charlie. Yeah. That's just what they were looking forward to, and those young people. Yeah. What was security like, to the extent there was security, getting into the area where he was speaking?
0 to none. Right above where Charlie was speaking, there was an awning, and people had gathered above that, and they pushed him off to the side. There were a couple people in police, wearing, uniformed police. Charlie has his own detail, but look, you got 2,000-3,000 people, and there's a couple of people with Charlie's personal security detail. But again, we're talking a handful of 2 or 3 people. And so, no, look, it's an open campus. This is Utah, for goodness sake. These things don't happen. We don't have shootings. I mean, we do, but come on. This is our state's largest university, 40,000 students. It's an open atmosphere. But I worry that the days of true dialogue, they're getting shut down. And I think that's what the evil left, if you will,
they want this.
The evil, they want to shut it down because he is so effective.
Yeah, they wanted to shut him down because he was so effective. But they also want to stop political or even cultural speakers from going to campus, and what they're going to say is it's a liability risk for the university. We can't do it. We can't guarantee security. So then the students miss out on actually engaging with individuals. Maybe they'll be liberals. Maybe they'll be conservatives. Charlie obviously was a strong conservative, strong Christian. But that's what they want to happen. And unfortunately, I believe this will drive a lot of colleges and universities to say, no, we're not, we just can't, we can't secure this. Can't do it. Yeah. That's what I fear. And Jason, when you saw Charlie fall back, and I had a chance to talk to someone else who was there, and you know who I'm talking about, said, I knew he was gone. Knew he was gone. Yeah. And inconsolable.
It was too close. I mean, that shot had to come from close. Some people are saying, oh, now it might be a rooftop. That's not a far shot. Law enforcement's saying it might be 200 yards. I doubt it's even that long. And anybody with a rifle, you know, in a prone position with if that's truly what happened. Law enforcement's been scant with information, but it just worked because there was, like I said, no security. That's the way it should be, but unfortunately in today's world, there's evil. There's evil.
Yeah, that's correct. We're inside an auditorium here on campus right now where a press conference is expected to take place any minute now. We just got basically about a 7-minute warning that the press conference will be starting here shortly. This is where it'll be happening up here. All the major players, of course, will be here for this press conference. We're expecting the governor to be showing up, along with also the FBI and the Department of Public Safety. So again, this is a case that's going to go international, of course. A lot of people wanting a lot of answers as to what went wrong here, what happened, and just a lot of fear, of course, on campus from students as far as what they saw and the trauma they experienced, and then also coming back to school, you know, what this is going to be like. And so, again, I think the main questions we want to be able to try and answer right now is, do they have any idea where this shooter may be at this time? Or if they have any indication as to if he's still on campus or not, or what they're finding and those kind of things.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. At this press conference, we will first hear from Utah Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason. Then we'll hear from the FBI Special Agent in Charge, Robert Bowles. We'll then hear from Utah Valley University Vice President Val Peterson, who's been in touch with President Jimenez. And then we'll hear from Governor Cox. I'll turn the time over to Commissioner Mason.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bo Mason, Commissioner for the Utah Department of Public Safety. Today at approximately 12:20 Mountain Standard Time, political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot in an event at the Utah Valley University. He was taken by private vehicle to Timpanogos Hospital, where he later passed. The Utah Department of Public Safety will be co-leading this criminal investigation to find this killer, along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We are working in unison with the County Sheriff's Office, the local police department, and the University Police Department, all of which have been very cooperative and fully engaged in this process. Shortly after the shooting, we did have a suspect in custody, George Zinn, but he was released from custody after we identified that he did not match the shooting suspect and was not an accurate person of interest. However, he has been booked into the county jail by Utah Valley University Police Department for obstruction of justice. We do still have an active investigation for the person of interest. This incident occurred with a large crowd around. There was one shot fired and one victim. While the suspect is at large, we believe this was a targeted attack towards one individual. This is a tragic moment in our state and in our country. As we heal, we encourage everyone who is struggling with news of the incident to call 988, our state mental health crisis line. In addition to that, our partners with the FBI will also be discussing other ways we can communicate through the public for tips and other information. Thank you.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the FBI, we extend our sincerest condolences to the family and friends of Charlie Kirk. Our thoughts are also with the people who witnessed this traumatic event. We know that what you experienced was very difficult. Our thoughts are with you as well. As soon as we heard about the shooting, special agents and personnel from the Salt Lake field office responded immediately. We have full resources devoted to this investigation, including tactical, operational, investigative, and intelligence. To be clear, the FBI will fully support and co-lead this investigation alongside with our partners. We are working on setting up a digital media tip line, and as soon as it's established, we'll get that information out to everyone. I know there's a lot of questions. This is very much an active case, and this investigation is in its early stages. We are following all the leads and all the evidence. If anyone has any information, please report it to the FBI or local law enforcement. Thank you.
On behalf of President Tubanez, who we've been communicating with, and she's on her way back right now, I say that on behalf of Utah Valley University, we are shocked and saddened by the tragic passing of Charlie Kirk. We express our sincere condolences to the Kirk family. We grieve with our students, faculty, and staff who bore witness to this unspeakable tragedy. He was invited by the student group Turning Point USA to speak on our campus. We firmly believe that UVU is a place to share ideas and to debate openly and respectfully. Any attempt to infringe on those rights has no place here. We do not condone any form of violence at UVU and seek to make our campus a safe place for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this dark and tragic occasion. I want to thank our law enforcement officers who are leading this investigation, starting with Chief Long and his response here with the UVU Police Department. We're grateful for your leadership and your team. And again, to the speakers that you've just heard from who are co-leading this investigation. I also want to recognize Sheriff Mike Smith, who has been an invaluable partner as this investigation moves forward. I've been in touch with President Trump, with FBI Director Kash Patel. We are completely aligned with our state and federal partners as we work through this case. Now, this is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. We are celebrating 250 years of the founding of this great nation. That founding document, the Declaration of Independence, that this great experiment on which we embarked together 250 years ago, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. The first one of those is life. And today, a life was taken. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a dad to two young children. He was also very much politically involved, and that's why he was here on campus. Charlie believed in the power of free speech and debate to shape ideas and to persuade people. Historically, our university campuses in this nation and here in the state of Utah have been the place where truth and ideas are formulated and debated. And that's what he does. He comes on college campuses and he debates. That is foundational to the formation of our country, to our most basic constitutional rights. And when someone takes the life of a person because of their ideas or their ideals, then that very constitutional foundation is threatened. Now, we have a person of interest in custody. The investigation is ongoing. But I want to make it crystal clear right now, to whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah. Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife, his children, his family, his friends. We mourn as a nation. If anyone in the sound of my voice celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American. We desperately need our country. We desperately need leaders in our country. But more than the leaders, we just need every single person in this country to think about where we are and where we want to be. To ask ourselves, is this it? Is this what 250 years has wrought on us? I pray that that's not the case. I pray that those who hated what Charlie Kirk stood for will put down their social media and their pens and pray for his family, and that all of us will try to find a way to stop hating our fellow Americans. With that, we're happy to take a few questions.
The FBI director is posting that a suspect is in custody. I would just like clarification. Do you or do you not have a suspected shooter in custody?
We have a person of interest in custody that is being interviewed right now.
That is not George Zinn.
That is not George Zinn. That is correct.
Are you still searching or looking for another shooter or anybody else related to this?
Yes, we are actively looking for anyone and everyone who has any possible information relating to this shooting.
Can you tell us details about the suspect being taken into custody? Where? How long ago?
We cannot at this point, but we will get you that information when we can.
Is there believed to be a second individual involved in the shooting?
At this point, there is no information that would lead us to believe that there is a second person involved.
Can you guys talk about the possible shooting?
Do you want to talk about what we know there? Yeah.
The only information we have on the suspect, the possible shooter, is taken from closed-circuit TV here on campus. We do have that. We're analyzing it, but it is security camera footage, so you can kind of guess what the quality of that is. But we do know dressed in all dark clothing, but we don't have much better description other than that.
Where do you believe the shot came from?
The shot came from here on campus, from a location at a fair, potentially from a roof, yes. A longer distance shot from a roof.
So to clarify, with the security camera footage you have and the person of interest that's in custody, does that match up?
That's what we're trying to decipher right now.
So did FBI FBI or DHS have anything on the threat board this morning?
I can't speak to that.
I'll just say that the investigation's ongoing, and as soon as we have further information, we will be sure to release it.
Any indications of foreign intelligence involvement?
As of now, I can't comment on any of that.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the security of the event itself? Who was there security-wise, and what happens on these kind of events?
Chief Long. So my name is Jeff Long. I'm the police chief here at UVU, and I'll tell you right now, we're devastated. We're a small police department. We have a very large campus. We have over 40,000 students, and we love our students. We love our visitors, and we're devastated by what happened today. This is the police chief's nightmare. I'm very saddened for the Kirk family. I know his wife and parents found out about this. You know, obviously he's away from home. He's here in Utah. They find out by a police officer that visits their home. That's tragic. Nobody wants that. But I can tell you about our venue today. This was an open venue. This is outside. We did have 6 officers working that event. We had probably over 3,000 people that were in attendance. It sat down in kind of a bowl area here on the central campus. We have a waterfall area. And so he was kind of in a lower area, surrounded by buildings. You know, we had some plainclothes police officers that were in the crowd as well. You know, we train for these things, and you think you have things covered, and you know, these things, you know, unfortunately, they happen. You try to get your bases covered, and unfortunately today we didn't. And because of that, we had this tragic incident. So we did have officers there. We had Charlie Kirk's team. He has a security team that travels with him, and they were here with him when he was shot.
Was the gun recovered?
I'm sorry, say.
Was the weapon recovered?
At this point, I can't disclose that.
When Charlie Kirk was shot, there was a question being asked about mass shooting. Was that person apprehended, and do you know who asked that question?
Say the question again. I don't know if I understand what you're saying.
When Charlie Kirk was shot, he was answering a question about mass shootings specifically. Was that person apprehended, and do you know who asked that question?
I do not. We do not have that at this moment.
What kind of weapon was used?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have time for just one more question, so thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for the chief as well. Was it your team or Kirk's team, or a combination of both, that kind of set the security protocol for the event?
So we work together. You know, he has his team, and they do this all over the country. We all know that. This is not uncommon for them. They're very comfortable on campuses, and I was coordinating with his lead security guy, and so yeah, we were working together.
Was this a sharpshooter type shot?
Ladies and gentlemen, those are all the questions that will be answered today. Again, thank you for covering this. We will be updating you as soon as we have additional information through normal channels, working with law enforcement. Again, our deepest condolences to the Kirk family and to the students who were there today. I would just ask everyone everywhere to please pray for their family and to pray for our country. We need it now more than ever. Thank you.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the 2 young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. his mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Hillary Kellner. I am the Communications Director for the Utah Department of Public Safety. This evening, we have FBI Director Patel, FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles, Governor Spencer Cox, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, and Commissioner Anderson, as well as Commissioner Bo Mason, as well as some local partners here present with us today. Governor will kick it off. Governor Spencer Cox, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, and Commissioner Anderson, as well as Commissioner Bo Mason, as well as some local partners here present with us today. Governor will kick it off. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here tonight. We appreciate the media and the partnership we have with you in helping us to get information out to the public so that we can catch this assassin and hold him accountable. We are going to share a portion of a video and that we have of the suspect, as well as some new stills. Those have already been released, but we want to make sure that they get as much attention as possible so that we can get help from the public in tracking down this evil human being. So we're going to cue up the video right now. Show that. I've asked Commissioner Bo Mason if he would narrate to you what is happening in this video.
Thank you, Governor. Bo Mason, Commissioner for the Utah Department of Public Safety. If you look up to the top left, you'll see the building where the shooter was proned out in the top left corner. We'll go ahead and play that video, and I'll narrate as we walk through that. So here you see the suspect ran behind that upper upper building. He's going to come out on the right, moves to this far right corner. As he does, he's going to climb off the edge and then drop down to the ground. As he did that, he left some palm impressions. There's some smudges, some places we're looking to collect DNA. There's a shoe imprint where we believe the suspect is clearly identified as wearing Converse tennis shoes. Again, we'll replay that again so you can get another view of that. It's important to note his black t-shirt, his black pants, and there appears to be some white on the soles of those Converse tennis shoes. Those are all identifiable items that we're looking for. In the stills that are going to follow this, you're going to see a very distinctive t-shirt with an American flag and appears to have an eagle on it. There's also a baseball cap with a triangle on it and a pair of sunglasses. All distinctive, all things that we would ask the public to look for and try to identify if they know someone who has those items, who has been seen wearing those items. We're looking for all that information. Here you see the suspect after dropping off the building. He moved around across this grassy area, around the parking lot. We're going to pan to the right. After he crosses the street, this is where he moves over into the wooded area. This is the video evidence that we utilize to track his movements and to locate that firearm in that wooded area following the discovery of this evidence. Good. You want to go to the stills? So here's the still photographs I mentioned. These have been enhanced. So these are slightly different than what we introduced earlier. Please pay close attention to the t-shirt. Like I said, very distinctive with that American flag and that eagle. The hat with the triangle and the sunglasses. If you'll go to the next picture, please. The backpack as well. All identifying features that we're hoping the public can help us identify and lead us to this suspect. Next picture. And again, there's a better picture of the hat with that triangle logo, and again, the t-shirt. Blue jeans, and you get a good look at those Converse tennis shoes as well. We have pushed these out. We'll continue to push these out, and we just ask for the public's cooperation through the public. The tips that have been coming in are what are giving us our next leads and enabling us to continue to further this investigation. We've had great cooperation from the public, and we're continuing to ask for that as we move forward. Thank you, and I'll turn the time back over to Governor Cox.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mason. I want to thank Director Patel and his team. It's great to have them on the ground with us tonight. We've had several briefings, and he's had an opportunity to walk the crime scene. We appreciate our local law enforcement here. Again, we have Mike Smith, who is the county sheriff here. We have all of our local chiefs of police that are here as well, all working hand in hand with the state and with the FBI as we move forward with this investigation. Now, I'll just give you a little warning. We will not be taking any questions at this time. We're giving you the latest information we have, being as transparent with everything that we have. But I do want to share a couple things that I think are important. We cannot do our job without the public's help right now. The public has answered our call for action. So far, we've received more than 7,000 leads and tips. I would just note that the FBI hasn't received this many digital media tips from the public since the Boston Marathon bombing. This case also highlights the dedication of our law enforcement community. We have 20 federal, state, and local law enforcement partners that are working shoulder to shoulder to find the person who committed this horrific crime. With their support, we've completed nearly 200 interviews. As you're aware, as has already been reported, the FBI is offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to the identification and arrest of the person responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. We also continue to implore the public to support this investigation and come forward with any information.
We are truly hopeful that this video and new photos will lead to even more tips. We are processing. We have an incredible team, a state and federal team working together to process those tips. We are going out in tandem to interview any potential person of interest or suspects. But we need, again, we need as much help as we can possibly get. Any videos or photos that you might have, the public, should be submitted to our digital media tip line, which is www.fbi.gov/Utah Valley shooting, all lowercase. Again, that is fbi.gov/Utah Valley shooting, all lowercase. You can also provide general tips about the shooting by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's 1-800-CALL-FBI, or at tips.fbi.gov. This is, I would just say, this is not just a local matter here in Utah. We have people all over the country that are helping to bring this perpetrator to justice for Charlie Kirk and his family. I will just add as well that, as was mentioned, there is a lot of forensic evidence that is being processed right now at both the state lab and the federal labs, federal lab on the East Coast. So we are working in tandem together. I would also just add a word of note for those people who are spending so much time on social media. I think Charlie said it best, that when things get bad, we should put our phones down and spend a little time with our families. There is a tremendous amount of disinformation. We are tracking our team, the state team, and I'm sure the federal team as well. What we're seeing is our adversaries want violence. China, we have bots from Russia, China, all over the world that are trying to instill disinformation and encourage violence. I would encourage you to ignore those, to turn off those streams, and to spend a little more time with our families. We desperately need some healing. We'll have more to say about that in the days and weeks to come. More than anything, we are going to catch this person. Last thing I will just say is we've been working with our attorneys, getting everything that we need, affidavits ready, so that we can pursue the death penalty in this case, and that will happen here in the state of Utah. Again, to the public, to those who are grieving, thank you for your prayers. I know we are feeling those prayers. I know the Kirk family is feeling those prayers as well. We pray that God will bless our nation at this very dark time. We can start healing by finding this perpetrator and holding him accountable, and we need your help to do that. Thank you.
Can you tell us what happened the night of September 23rd, 2024?
I honestly don't know. And that's what people don't want to understand. Me and my wife had gone to Presque Isle. We had gone to job interviews, which this has been verified by state troopers, FBI, and local cops.
Silent screams, whispers of shattered dreams, a future on hold, heartaches for you. Each sunrise brings longing anew, searching shadows, familiar face, yearning for you in every place. Stefanie, we call your name, hoping you'll return in this pain. Words whisper secrets, night holds breath, memories replay moments of death. Heartaches for you, each sunrise anew, longing for the moments we once knew, searching shadows, familiar face, your name. Someone must know a way to see Stefanie back to our family. Come home, Stefanie. We're waiting for you. Praying for your return. We miss you.
Can one of you guys tell me about the website and what made you start this?
For me, there's a child missing, and it didn't seem like anyone was looking for her. In Aroostook County, everybody knows everybody.
Welcome back to our second segment of the deep dive. While some mysteries, they just refuse to fade. No matter how many resources are thrown at them, no matter how much public attention they get.
Yeah, that's true.
Even with all our modern tools, some cases just linger. They leave us with more questions than answers.
Absolutely.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into one such case. It's really captured the attention of Maine, and honestly, beyond. The baffling disappearance of Stefanie Damron.
A tough one.
She was a 14-year-old girl who went missing from New Sweden, Maine, back on September 23rd, 2024.
And as of now.
As of today, she's been gone for over 300 days.
Just vanished.
So, our mission here is to unpack the layers, the information, the conflicting accounts sometimes, and also the really inspiring community efforts around Stefanie's case.
There's a lot to cover.
We'll explore the known facts, the challenges, and they are immense, of searching such a remote area, and the questions still hanging out there. We're drawing from, a YouTube live discussion, various news reports, official government resources.
A mix of sources, yeah.
So by the end, you should have a pretty comprehensive understanding of this perplexing, heartbreaking situation, and maybe a deeper appreciation for just how complex these missing persons investigations are.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's start by setting the scene. September 23rd, 2024. Stefanie Damron, then 13, turning 14 while missing.
Right.
She was at home in New Sweden, Maine. She's described as 5 feet tall, 130 pounds, green eyes, shoulder-length brown hair.
And what she was wearing.
Last seen wearing blue jeans, a long-sleeve blue shirt, and black Harley-Davidson hiking boots.
Okay.
Now, New Sweden itself, it's tiny. Population about 577 back in 2020.
Very small.
Deep in Aroostook County, just south of the Canadian border. It's known for woods, dense woods, and critically really poor cell signal. That detail complicates everything.
That always does.
So that Monday, Stefanie was home with 3 siblings and her grandfather. Her parents, Lisa and Christopher Damron, they were out.
Where were they?
Attending a job interview in Presque Isle, which is maybe 25 to 30 minutes away. Around 3 p.m., her mother starts getting texts from her oldest daughter, but using the grandfather's flip phone.
Okay, what did they say?
Saying Stefanie had left the house. Reportedly walked off into the woods off West Road after an argument with her 16-year-old sister about chores.
An argument over chores?
Yeah. Now, let's unpack this a bit. Her family said it was pretty common for Stefanie to go into the woods when she was upset.
So it wasn't immediately alarming?
Apparently not. Her initial departure didn't ring massive alarm bells for them. But, when does common behavior become a real concern? For the family and then for law enforcement.
That's a really crucial distinction, and it highlights a common hurdle in those first hours. A family might have a baseline for behavior, but for law enforcement, those initial 24-48 hours are absolutely vital.
Regardless of past patterns.
Regardless. And what's fascinating here is the protocol around reporting someone missing. Christopher Damron, the father, he actually admitted waiting 24 hours before calling the police. He mistakenly believed it was like a legal requirement. It's a really common misconception, maybe from TV or movies.
Right, the 24-hour rule myth.
Exactly. But law enforcement strongly encourages immediate reporting, especially for a juvenile. Critically important.
So what happens when a report is made in Maine?
Well, there are 2 main parts. First, her info goes into the NCIC database, National Crime Information Center. Think of it like a nationwide alert.
Okay.
Given her age and circumstances, she'd likely be classified as juvenile and possibly endangered. Second, There's a statewide message, a File 6 teletype sent to all law enforcement in Maine.
Getting the word out locally.
Precisely. And both of these stay active until the person is found. So Stefanie's case is still very much live in those systems, flagged constantly.
Yeah.
But that initial delay, that misconception, it definitely meant critical time was lost right at the start.
Ugh, that lost time is just heartbreaking to think about. So this initial account gives us a starting point, but to really get the dynamics, we need to look at Stefanie's history, the family's background.
It adds layers for sure.
It really does. It seems to complicate things. Her family members confirmed she had run away before. Several times recently, actually.
And they found her.
They always found her in the woods nearby. There's even one specific incident. A neighbor saw her in his driveway late one night, asking for a ride home.
What did she say?
Told him she wanted to run away, had nowhere to go, no phone, no money. He gave her a ride, dropped her at the mailbox.
And this neighbor?
Oh, yeah. Thoroughly investigated by police, cleared of any involvement. Standard procedure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to the FBI and her mother, Stefanie was homeschooled, had limited access to social media, reportedly. No friends.
Socially isolated, sounds like.
Yeah, but, even off the grid can have loopholes these days.
True.
Her father, Christopher, he suspected something. Despite saying they raised the kids off the grid, he thought Stefanie might have been using an old flip phone, her grandfather's phone.
To do what?
To connect with people online, specifically on a dating app.
Okay. That's a twist.
And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe confusing. Christopher claimed the FBI told him they couldn't crack the phone. Said the tech was too far advanced.
On an old flip phone.
Yeah, hold on, that sounds backwards, doesn't it? Aren't older phones usually easier to get into? What do you make of that claim? Too far advanced for an old phone.
That's an excellent point to pause on. Because, yes, it's counterintuitive. Frankly, Christopher's claim that an old flip phone was too far advanced for the FBI. Well, it doesn't align with how digital forensics usually works.
How so?
In many scenarios, it's actually much easier to extract data from older, less sophisticated phones compared to newer smartphones with heavy encryption. Those often need complex warrants, manufacturer help.
So that statement raises a flag.
It certainly raises questions. Is it a misunderstanding? Or is it something else? It could suggest potential misinformation being introduced, which, can seriously hinder an investigation right from the beginning. Investigators have to constantly weigh the credibility of the information they receive.
Okay. And connecting this to the bigger picture, this family has a history, right?
Yes, a history suggesting a pattern of movement and interactions with social services. It adds complexity. Back in 2015, Christopher and Lisa Marie Damron were arrested in Texas.
What were the charges?
A range. Deadly conduct, speeding, child endangerment, drug possession, public intoxication. Their kids were temporarily removed from custody.
Wow.
They were returned within about 6 months. Christopher's account of it, he claimed it was just over smoking a joint in a Walmart parking lot. Said a CPS worker lost her job. The judge threw the whole case out.
Is there any record of that?
Well, there's a Facebook post from Christopher in 2019 mentioning a CPS fiasco and thanking a CASID advocate. So there was definitely something involving Child Protective Services.
And then they moved.
Yes. The family, including the grandfather Richard, who isn't related by blood, apparently Stefanie, and 4 siblings, moved from Texas to New Sweden, Maine. That was June 4th, 2021. They said it was to escape bad memories from Texas.
So, this history, interactions with the law, social services, moving states, it definitely paints a more intricate backdrop for Stefanie's disappearance.
Absolutely. It adds layers that investigators have to sift through.
It really does. And with these initial facts and that complex background, things get even more baffling when you look at the inconsistencies that started cropping up from the family's own statements.
Contradictions often emerge.
Yes, several contradictions and lingering questions really surface. First, Christopher's statement about returning home that day. He said, quote, "By the time I got home, that argument had blown up."
Had blown up?
Right. That phrasing led some people to speculate. Was he maybe there during the peak of the argument? which would contradict the claim she was already gone when they got back.
It's subtle, but potentially significant.
Exactly. For investigators, subtle shifts in a narrative, especially around timelines, can signal what could be faulty memory or it could be intentional misdirection.
The latter is always a concern they have to consider.
Then there's the neighbor notification piece. Christopher claimed he knocked on all the neighbors' doors that very night Stefanie went missing.
Okay, trying to find her.
But multiple neighbors, including one who spoke out later, said law enforcement was their first contact about her being missing. And that was days later.
That's a direct contradiction.
It is a significant discrepancy. It makes you question the initial actions, the transparency. Another point that came up was about the family dogs. Christopher had mentioned that when the kids went into the woods before, they'd let the dogs out to find them. Seems logical.
A familiar routine.
Yet there's no public record, no statement from him about letting the dogs out to search for Stefanie that night. Given the past pattern, that omission seems conspicuous.
Worth noting, definitely.
Perhaps the most unsettling detail, though, came from Christopher himself. In a prior discussion, he described this specific spot near his home. Hard to get to. A sludge pond, or some pond area with burnt tire tracks, where kids apparently hung out. He described it as, and this is a direct quote attributed to him, the perfect place to drop a body if something bad had happened.
Wow, that's jarring.
Extremely jarring. State police and the FBI did search that exact area later, in May. Used drones, ground teams. Found nothing.
They found nothing there.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So what do you even make of that? A parent saying that about a spot near their home. For investigators, that's not just a weird comment. It's a critical data point. Is it misdirection? A subconscious slip? A misguided attempt to guide the search? Each possibility points the investigation in a different direction.
Exactly. It's something they absolutely have to analyze carefully. And adding to the contradictions, remember the sounds heard that night.
The motorcycle or ATV?
Yes. Both Stefanie's grandfather, Richard, and her sister allegedly heard one, but the family reportedly doesn't own an ATV.
And no neighbor borrowed one.
No one in the neighborhood came forward saying they had. So it leaves this unexplained element. Was someone else there, or was it just a misidentified sound in the woods? Another loose end.
So many loose ends.
And then you have the whole social media context overlaying everything. That YouTube discussion we looked at really highlighted the storm of rumors, conflicting information, armchair detectives online.
Which can be overwhelming.
It can. And it's why police often stay quiet about specific details in active cases. It's not secrecy for secrecy's sake. It's to protect the investigation.
Right. Avoid compromising things, tipping someone off.
Precisely. That silence, while frustrating for the public wanting updates, is crucial for maintaining investigative integrity. It lets them follow leads without interference or contamination from the rumor mill.
It's that constant tension, isn't it? Public desire for info versus the need to protect the case. But despite all these complexities, the lack of quick answers, the search efforts for Stefanie have been really extensive.
Oh, absolutely. Multiple agencies involved. Maine State Police, the FBI, including their specialized CARD team, the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team.
CARD team, right.
And the Maine Warden Service. They've logged hundreds of hours. Foot teams, vehicles, drones, even horses, trying to cover that challenging terrain.
What's fascinating is that coordinated effort, especially bringing in the FBI's CARD team right away.
Yes. Their involvement from early on signals how seriously this was taken. It suggests investigators were considering all possibilities from the start: runaway, abduction, worst-case scenarios. The CARD team brings specific expertise in missing children cases. It's a significant resource showing the highest level of concern.
And beyond the official searches, the community response.
Really powerful volunteer groups like Team Stefanie and Letters to Stefanie, they've worked tirelessly.
Doing what exactly?
Keeping her name and face out there, flyers, vigils, participating in local parades, just trying to maintain awareness and hope. Their dedication is incredible, really shows how communities rally.
It really does. But that terrain, you mentioned it earlier, Aroostook County woods, it sounds incredibly difficult.
It cannot be overstated. The woods around New Sweden are described as incredibly dense, thick underbrush, swamps, deep holes. It's treacherous.
Like a maze.
Exactly. Imagine trying to search methodically through that. It's physically exhausting, slow-going, and frankly dangerous for the searchers, too. And add back in that poor cell reception.
Right, it makes communication coordination
extremely difficult. It creates a genuinely formidable environment for any large-scale search operation.
And this difficult environment, it impacts the public wanting to help, right? There were issues.
Yes, it created a delicate balance. Team Stefanie actually had to pause public searches at one point.
Why was that?
Because of incidents where well-meaning but unauthorized individuals were trespassing on private property, sometimes even entering homes and potentially disturbing evidence.
Oh, wow. Not helpful.
Not helpful at all. It's a stark reminder. Public desire to help is commendable, absolutely. But organized search and rescue, especially in a case like this tied to a police investigation, needs certified, trained volunteers working with law enforcement.
Because untrained searching can backfire.
It can inadvertently contaminate a scene, destroy clues, mislead investigators, or even put the searchers themselves in danger. It ultimately hinders the investigation, even with the best intentions.
It's such a crucial distinction. Helping versus hindering. Now, we zoom out a bit. Stefanie's case, sadly, isn't unique in that area, is it?
No, unfortunately not. Aroostook County has seen several people go missing over the years, including others from the nearby Washburn area, like Eric Foote, Ateen Shaw.
Why is that, do you think?
It likely underscores that combination of factors. Limited resources spread thin over a vast remote area, and that incredibly dense, unforgiving wilderness. It makes finding anyone who goes missing up there exceptionally difficult.
And there was another concern the FBI had early on.
Yes, human trafficking. Given New Sweden's proximity to the Canadian border and that possibility of Stefanie's online activity.
The dating app connection, maybe.
Exactly. It's something the FBI had to consider. Statistics from 2015 estimated maybe 300, 400 trafficking victims in Maine per year. That number is likely higher now.
So it's a real possibility they have to investigate.
It's a potential threat, highlights her vulnerability, and it's a grim reality investigators must always keep in mind when a young person vanishes, especially near a border.
So where does the case stand now? After all this time, all these efforts?
Despite the hundreds of hours searching, the interviews, the agency coordination, there have been no credible sightings or information about Stefanie since she disappeared.
No suspects named.
No suspects named publicly. Law enforcement maintains that everything is still on the table, from her being a runaway who's somehow stayed hidden to, well, a much graver worst-case situation.
It's just agonizing for everyone involved, especially the community. You might be sitting there listening, asking, okay, how can I help?
And people can help responsibly, sharing official flyers, spreading awareness through legitimate channels, not rumors.
And reporting tips.
Absolutely. Reporting any tip, no matter how small it seems, directly to law enforcement. That tiny detail could be the key. The Maine State Police numbers are 207-532-5400 or 1-800-924-2261.
And the FBI.
1-800-HAL-FBI. That's 1-800-225-5324. Or you can submit tips online at tips.fbi.gov.
Okay. So we've walked through the complex, often contradictory details. The initial argument, the family's history, the immense challenges of the search, the ongoing efforts.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. Over 300 days later, Stefanie Damron's disappearance remains this profound mystery. Her whereabouts are still tragically unknown. It's just a testament to how these quiet disappearances can endure, even now.
Mm-hmm. And this really raises an important question for all of us, doesn't it? In our world, so interconnected, seemingly every moment leaves some kind of digital trace. What does it truly mean for a 14-year-old girl to just vanish without a trace from the edge of the wilderness?
Yeah.
What unseen forces, what quiet decisions maybe contribute to such a long, enduring silence? And maybe what responsibilities do we carry as informed listeners, as a community, to ensure that a missing child like Stefanie is never, ever truly forgotten? Perhaps the answers aren't just in the evidence files, but in our collective memory, our continued vigilance. refusing to let that silence win.
This has been a heavy episode, and I think it's important to honor the gravity of these situations. Co-host, would you be willing to share the prayer we prepared to close out our time together today?
Yes, most definitely. Heavenly Father, we come to you with heavy hearts, lifting up the Damron family in this time of immeasurable pain and fear. We ask that you wrap your loving arms around them, comforting them with a peace that surpasses all understanding. Steady their trembling hearts and calm their anxious minds, replacing their worry with the certainty of your presence. We pray specifically for their beloved daughter, Stefanie. Wherever she is, we ask that you protect her and keep her safe from all harm. Guide her steps and provide for her needs. Let her feel your gentle hand on her shoulder and know that she is not alone. Most of all, we pray for her safe return. We ask that you guide her home, mend the bonds of sisterhood, and restore peace to their home. We trust in your mercy and grace, and we hold on to the hope that Stefanie will be brought home safely into her family's arms. We also lift up Erica and her children who are navigating an unimaginable loss in the wake of Charlie's senseless death. Lord, be their comfort and strength in this time of sorrow. Surround them with your peace and provide them with the unwavering support they need to face the days ahead. We also pray for the soul of Charlie, whose life was taken so senselessly. We ask for your mercy and grace upon him. May his legacy of passion and conviction continue to inspire and encourage others, even as we mourn his passing. We pray that the evil person who committed this senseless act, taking a life from a loving wife and 2 precious children, that he be brought to swift accountability and justice. We also lift up the students who were present at Utah Valley University on Wednesday. They witnessed an act of violence that has shaken their sense of safety and community. Please heal their hearts and minds, Lord. Help them to find peace and to reclaim their campus as a place of open dialogue and intellectual inquiry free from fear. Finally, we lift up our nation. We are a nation in need of healing, a country divided by fear and anger. We pray for an end to the violence that has become all too common. Protect our communities and our leaders, and guide us toward a path of civility, understanding, and mutual respect. Help us to remember that we are all your children, and may we find a way to honor one another's humanity, even when we disagree. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening tonight. Be sure to follow us on our Facebook page and on DLive at www.dlive.tv/SYMradio. You can find all our social media links in the description below this video. God bless you all. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, everyone.